Everybody, welcome. Here we go. So, just for all of you joining me here today, this is great. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to be doing today's live session is going to be entitled "The Secrets of the Akashic Records." So, quite technologically minded here. So we're streaming live to Facebook. Hello to everybody on TikTok, and hi to everybody on Instagram. So what a kind of world that we live in. So everybody who's going to be joining me from TikTok, you're not going to see the banners that the people can see on Facebook, so you'll have to just bear with me. I can't stream the banners and titles of the slides, etc., to TikTok, so you'll just have to kind of follow along. Same for Instagram. But for everybody who's joining me here on Facebook, welcome. Perhaps some of you are Quantum Club members, perhaps some of you are just joining, want to know about the Akashic Records, which is what we're going to be talking about today, which is amazing. So anybody who has not kind of jumped across onto my Telegram channel, you can do so. The banners across on Facebook at the moment, but for those on TikTok and on Instagram, the link to do that is bit.ly/Aeron Telegram. So that's AERON and Telegram. Jump across, loads of cool exclusive content on there. But yeah, so that's the Telegram channel. If you haven't connected with me on there, jump across. I recommend that. All the Q&A, all the questions about this, if you can direct them to the Telegram channel. And I'll do my best to get through them all afterwards, and I'll answer them on Telegram. So if you have got questions after this, anything about the Akashic Records, I'm happy to answer that. Stick it on Telegram. Okay, so let's get started. Thanks very much for joining today. It's really good to welcome you all onto the live sessions. I'm just going to be talking to you about the Akashic Records. So it's just, for those, I'll go deep dive into this for everybody watching this, what the Akashic Records are, which frequency band or dimension they sit in, and how we can utilize the Akashic Records in our lives. They're just an amazing place. I'm going to talk to you about the Akashic Records and explain everything about my experiences, how it works, how you can utilize the Akashic Records and access your own, and just basically what they are. They're just amazing. So just if you can start off just by asking yourselves, what would your life look like if literally there was nothing holding you back? Like nothing holding you back. So if you feel like you're a bit blocked or you're a bit stuck, or you're facing challenges, etc., if you could just remove all of that, right, in like almost like right away, immediately, what would your life look like? So before you access the Akashic Records, it's important that you get clear on why you want to access the Akashic Records. It's not just like a cool place that you would want to go and hang out and, it's a bit raining, it's raining outside, I'm just going to go and spend time at the Akashic Records. No, you need to be clear with your intention, on why you would like to access the Akashic Records. So, number one, ask yourself, what would your life look like if there was literally like nothing holding you back, nothing stopping you, nothing getting in your way? And just keep that in mind when you're setting your intention about going to the Akashic Records. So we'll move forwards. So I'll just explain what you can use the Akashic Records for. And the Akashic Records, you can access your own Akashic Records to remove energetic blocks. So each of us, and this is for the benefit of everybody watching, each of us has got our own consciousness, right? And our consciousness and our soul sits within this physical vessel. Around this physical vessel, we've got an energetic field. It sits around all of us, okay? Some people can look at these things and they appear like auras, etc. Some people are able to visually see these things, but this energetic field, we emit this as a frequency. We broadcast this out, okay? And our energetic field resonates differently depending on our emotional state. So the higher our emotional state, the higher our field vibrates, and the nicer it feels to other people. So, you would have come across people perhaps in life, they walk into a room, the room lights up instantly. And why is that? It's not because of how they look, what they're wearing. It's because of their energy field. People are sensing this stuff, you know, and people are just magnetized towards these kind of people. Inversely, you've got, you know, what I would call energy vampires. We've all come across them. They would be the people who would walk in a room and the atmosphere is just sucked out. It's like lifting a plug out of a sink and the water just draining out. It's just, they're exhausting. And we've all experienced these people. That's because of the frequency that they're vibrating around. So that's their energetic field. We've all got energetic fields that sit around us. Within this, our energetic fields, we've got blocks, we've got stagnant energy, we've got stuff which is holding us back. It's linked to things like karma, and that's stuff our soul has been through, and experiences that we've been through, and karma that we've picked up and collected. And, you know, this kind of stuff is stored at the Akashic Records. So you can access the Akashic Records to remove your blocks, or at least to pinpoint where they are within the field. And then what you can do is access your own energetic field. You can release these blocks, and then basically whatever was holding you back dematerializes here on Earth, and you kind of reach your potential in that area. Really profound, pardon me, place to kind of go. There's also a karmic field there. I'll go into this more a little bit later in this presentation. Presentation lasts about, I don't know, half an hour or so, but I'll go into it a little bit later on. You've not only got the records, but there's also a karmic field. There's also a consciousness field there. So, you know, from a karmic perspective, you could be clearing stuff that your ancestors have kind of had. That's karma that they've accumulated, your ancestors, etc. Because you're energetically tied to your ancestral line, this can be, in fact, impacting your life. There's many, many layers to this, guys, okay? So it's really fascinating. And like I say, I'm going to show you how to access the Akashic Records and basically learn how to master them. And once you've begun to master them, you can mastery of your own life. You know, it's a really profound thing. So what are the Akashic Records? Leads me on nicely to the next banner that I'm streaming out. And the Akashic Records are basically, if you're into cryptocurrency or whatever, it would be the equivalent of the ledger, okay? So it's like the ledger or the record of everything that there has ever been, and not just in this lifetime, but from all of your lifetimes. If you look at your soul, for people who are just getting into spirituality, or just to confirm for people who are into spirituality, it begins at source, and then you just travel around all your different lifetimes, learning all the karmic lessons. You learn the lessons, and then you go back to source. And we're on this kind of loop, if you like, on the way back to source. And all the records of everything that ever has been to do with yourself, everything that ever has been, will be, and is, okay, is recorded in this ledger or these Akashic Records. The Akashic Records sit in, when we talk about dimensions from a consciousness perspective, these Akashic Records, they sit as far away from this reality from a frequency band perspective as you can get before you get to source. So when you hear people talking about, this is the third dimension, okay? So we live in a third dimensional reality. And you might have heard people talk about the fifth dimension, and then the sixth and the seventh and the eighth, all the way up to the 12th, and source and all this kind of stuff. You know, the Akashic Records exist as far away from this reality as you can get. You can't get any further than that, or deeper into the quantum, or further from this frequency band. Because another thing just to point out quickly is that when we talk about different dimensions, it's when we say, it's in the fifth dimension, it's not like somewhere that's way up there, or it's in outer space, or it's miles and miles and miles away. It's just different. For each dimension is a different frequency band of this, where we are now. So within this room here, where I'm sitting, in this room talking to you, all of the dimensions will exist within this room. They're just different frequency bands. It's just currently my consciousness, my retina and everything else are experiencing the third dimensional band, the third frequency band, or the third dimension. But within this, there's many, many, many frequency bands. But, you know, by elevating your consciousness, you're able to tune in to different frequency bands. So when we talk about we travel to different dimensions, for those who are watching this on TikTok and maybe on Facebook and you're just getting into spirituality, it's not that you astral travel to like outer space or just disappear off into anything. Your consciousness just tunes in to different frequency bands. That's when you become multidimensional. That's all it is. But the Akashic Records, really deep from a frequency perspective, pardon me, they contain the records or the ledger of everything your soul has experienced. Everything. You can't hack or cheat the Akashic Records. So the good, the bad, the ugly, the everything in between, it's all recorded in the Akashic Records. Okay, it's all there. And you know, when you access the Akashic Records, you can access the records of these experiences, which is pretty cool. And around these experiences, so just got to go with me here, right? So around these experiences, what you've got is karma that you accumulate. So it's either lessons that you've learned or stuff that you've done which accumulates karma, which means that you need to learn a lesson because of something else. All starts to accumulate because of these experiences. And then, so you've got this kind of, and I'll talk to you about my experiences with the Akashic Record and how they appear to my consciousness. But just for now, just for the sake of going with me, there's just records contained within blocks within this compound. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that as we move forward. So that's the records, okay? So there's above that, you've got the karmic field, which sits there. So the Akashic Records are in like 3 layers. That's how they're represented to me. You've got the records, and then you've got the karmic field, which sits across the top of it. And that's all the karma that you've accumulated, which can be causing us blocks in our energy field. Do you remember I mentioned our energy field sits around us? That can contain blocks. So if we can release the karma from this karmic field around stuff that perhaps you've done in past life, perhaps stuff you've done in this lifetime, perhaps it's stuff that your ancestors have done, because don't forget, you've got your family line. If you're female and you've got married, because traditionally, you know, a man and a woman will get married. I know there's many other ways to do it nowadays, but traditionally it was a woman and a man that got married. As a female, the female energy, basically, you plug into the male ancestral line energetically of your husband. So, you know, from that perspective, it's not just your own karma. There's lots of karma. There's layers of karma up there. And so by definition, there's lots of stuff to clear. There's lots. Well, from a karmic perspective, not just individually, but from a planet, we've got a lot of spring cleaning and a lot of cleaning out that we need to do. Certainly, if we want to stop facing blocks and stuff in our life, if you're not bothered, then just go and live your life. You're just going to get reincarnated in the next life and come back and learn these lessons again. And you probably have these realizations in the next lifetime. And that's fine if that's what you choose to do. We live in a reality of free will. So, you know, everybody's free to do whatever they feel like they want to do. From my perspective, I want to reach my potential within this lifetime. I want my soul to reach its potential in this lifetime. That's my intention. So if I can clear my karma and I can clear as much as possible, I would like to do that. And, you know, one of the things I like to do is to share this message with people and perhaps inspire you to go in and clear your karma, because it'll really positively impact your life right now. It'll take your life to the next level and beyond. You don't even realize how stuck you are until you start removing all these energetic blocks that you've got in your life. And all of a sudden, your life just takes off. And you're like, oh my goodness me, I wish I'd known about this, because I could have cleared this a long time ago and I could be kind of, you know, reaching where I wanted to go. So you've got 3 layers to it. And on top of that, you've got the consciousness, which I'll talk about in a bit. Okay, so just I'm giving you breaking it down as basic as I can. You've got the records, you've got the karmic field, which sits above it, okay, within this frequency band. You've also got the collective consciousness of the Akashic, okay? So it's got a consciousness. It's like a living thing. And I'll explain more a little bit later on why it's a living thing and how it affects us. So that's kind of what the Akashic Records are on a basic level. There's also these beings there, okay, called the guardians or the keepers. They are quite sedentary beings. They're golden, so they're like irradiated in gold. From a human perspective, they're about 15 to 20 feet tall. They have triangular shaped heads, no features. And they are there purely to look after the Akashic Records, to make sure that the Akashic Records are kept in order, pardon me, and to protect the Akashic Records. from things like corruption, because the Akashic Records are just a pure source record of everything. Okay, so they need to be kept in order, they need to be protected. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what the Akashic Records are. Okay, so again, I touched on the layers of the Akashic Records. So I touched on this, and the layers of the Akashic Records, like I said, was the records or the ledgers themselves. You've got the karmic field of energy, which sits above the Akashic Records. I see it in my consciousness represented to me as an energetic layer which sits above the Akashic Records. And then you've got the consciousness of the Akashic Records. So I might as well just sort of touch on quickly how I experience the Akashic Records, how it appears to my consciousness, and how I got there for the first time. Because, you know, it's no mean feat. If you've never accessed the Akashic Records, and when I was trying to do this, I had nobody like myself who can show you how to do this. I just had to figure this out on my own. And it was hard. It was difficult. I felt like I was just hitting a brick wall, and I was like, I was getting quite discouraged. I was feeling sort of the emotion of frustration, because I was like, well, why can't I do this? I know it exists. I want to go there, but I just couldn't access it. I just wasn't ready to at that point, or I had nobody developed enough that was able to show me how to access, because that would have made all the difference to me, but I just didn't have that at the time. So when I elevated my consciousness in the early days, I began to connect in with different frequency bands or different dimensions, as I explained at the start of this. And one of the frequency bands that I tapped into was the same frequency band or dimension that the Pleiadians are residents in. Pleiadians are made of light, a very, very high frequency race of beings. And they are very, very wonderful race of beings, and they help humanity. So for those who are just watching on TikTok, perhaps you're a bit younger, you only just started getting into spirituality, look up the Pleiadians. They're amazing. If you experience their consciousness and frequency, it's so high vibrational, it's incredible, but it's relevant to the Akashic Records, and that's why I'm talking to you about the Pleiadians quickly. So when I connected into the Pleiadian consciousness, and I was communicating, I was talking to them, it was represented to me that their consciousness technology was sent down to me via these external objects. And these external objects looked to my consciousness like Merkabahs. So for those who are not sure what a Merkabah is, Google it, Google image it. It's like two pyramids that are connected. So you've got pyramid facing upwards and a pyramid facing downwards. And it's like a 3D thing which sort of spins around. That's a Merkabah, okay? And I could see these kind of like crystalline structures that are called, I look like Merkabahs to me. And they were projecting their consciousness down into these crystalline Merkabah things. And that was beaming down to my consciousness. And I was kind of connecting, and I was receiving these kind of energetic upgrades from them. And I was kind of hanging out with them for a bit while I was in sort of meditative state. And I just asked them, I said, I'm trying to access the Akashic Records. Can you help me? You know, I'm asking you because I feel like you're the right race of beings to ask because of your frequency level. I don't know why I'm getting the intuition to ask you like this, but I feel like you're the right race of light beings to ask. So can you just give me, a heads up? Or I'm not asking you to help me because I want to try and do it myself from a developmental perspective. Can you just like point me in the right direction of how I access the Akashic Records? And what they showed me was amazing, right? Okay, they said, or they showed me, so I was seeing visual representations in my mind here. And they showed me that if I was to connect my consciousness into one of their Merkabahs within their dimensional frequency band, this would act almost like a trampoline, or almost act like a springboard to project my consciousness forwards as far as it needed to go to access the Akashic Record realm. And it was represented visually to me. Okay, so for those of you who are into music, you might be aware of Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon's album cover. Anyone who watching on TikTok hasn't seen that, just Google it, Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon. And what you'll see is this like prism, and you'll see this light coming towards this prism, and it refracts out like a rainbow, and it just amplifies out like a rainbow. And that's how I saw, that's what they showed me that I should do with my consciousness, that my consciousness would connect into this Merkabah and would refract forwards as far as it needed to go. So I was like, whoa, okay, this is, I said, thank you so much. I really appreciate the information. Thanks for sharing that with me. With your permission, I'm gonna do that. Yes, okay, so I came down. Next time I went in, because I was a bit mentally wiped out that day. So the next time I went in, I think it was like the following day or the day after, I think, and I said, right, okay, myself and my wife, Ria, we sat down. I want to access the Akashic Records. That was my intention that I'd set before the session. So I kind of went into this meditative state, elevated my consciousness, which at that point I'd learned to do, so I could do this quite easily and quite easily. Elevated my consciousness, bang, it was there with the Pleiadians. And I saw my consciousness hit one of their crystalline structures, and then just, boom, it went forwards. And I was just, it felt like it was hurtling through this time-space continuum, whatever you want to call it. It was just like it was hurtling forwards. And I just had this like instinct in that second just to go push, push, push. So in that second, I've always listened to my gut, always listened to my heart, my instinct. So I just pushed as hard as I could. I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and bang, I was just there. And I was like, whoa, what is this? And so I just knew it to be the Akashic Records. And I looked up, and I could see this kind of golden walled complex in front of me. And it was like golden. It was like, looked like it was made of stone, but it was bathed in golden light. So it was like illuminated in golden light. And I'm kind of like looking at this, and I'm just awestruck at what I'm looking at. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is just magnificent. And I'm like, okay, this must be the Akashic Records. If I'm in the Akashic Records, or I'm where I need to be, I want to get in, because I couldn't see a door. I couldn't see a way in. I could just see this big walled structure. So I set my intention that I wanted to go inside. I was like, okay, I need to find a way into this structure. And I'm looking left and I'm looking right. And all I can see is just these walls bathed in this golden light. And I'm looking left, I'm looking right. And I came back to the middle, and it wasn't there before, but there was this big opening. And it was like the walls went up further than I could even see. So it's not like it was like a wall and I could see the top of the wall, because I would have sort of climbed up and had a look over. But it was from a consciousness perspective. But they just were infinite. They just went on. There was no way up or anything. So I came back to the middle, and the thing had parted in the middle. And it was just like two walls, like two golden cliff faces, and this just big canyon in the middle of this complex. And I was like, okay, that must be the way that I go in. So with my intention, I just moved forward, and I was just in my visually represented in my consciousness. I was just walking down the Akashic Records, and they are like golden corridors where the walls are not straight. They're in, if you can imagine, this is the base. They're inverted outwards like this, and they just go up like this. And the floor in front of me was represented, again, it just looked like stone floor, just like stone flags or stone floor. Everything just illuminated in this golden light from about halfway up the walls down, and then about halfway up, the walls just disappeared up into shadow. It was just darkness up there, so I couldn't see what was up, but it wasn't important. It didn't. I just knew it not to be important. The important bit was what I could see, and I just started walking down these corridors, and they just went on and on and on, and they were perfectly straight. Again, with the walls at the sides went up like this, and they were just perfectly straight, right? And I'm going along. And I reached this crossroads. So there was like an intersection, okay, like this, like just a crossroads. And I met this, and I looked left, and I could see them disappearing off down there. And I could see them disappearing off down there, and I could see it going straight forwards. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go right. So I turned, and I went right the way down. And I just quickly realized that I was never going to get to the end of the corridor. It just went on. It was just infinite. I quickly got that impression. Look, I'm just going to keep going. I'm never going to reach the outside of this thing. So, okay, what I should do is retrace my steps and go back to the entrance. So that's what I did. So I turned around, went back down to the crossroads, turned left, went back down, and I'm looking around, and I've got to the entrance of where I've accessed this for the first time. And I'm like looking around, and I'm thinking, okay, so I would like to know a bit more about this. So I walked outside. Well, I say walked outside. I travelled outside of this complex, and all of a sudden, I met the guardians, or I call them the keepers, okay, of the Akashic Records, and they were just these sedentary, beautiful, like illuminated golden beings. This is how they were represented to my consciousness. These golden beings with triangular shaped heads. Wrap your head around that, right? Triangular shaped heads, no features. And they were just quite sedentary. And I just, because another thing you've for people who are just getting into this stuff, and for, you know, even to confirm for people who are into spirituality and have elevated their consciousness, etc., you'll know that when you communicate with these frequencies, you don't speak, you just do it telepathically. You just know you can communicate on that level as effortlessly as I'm talking to you now. That's how easy it is. So I just was asking with my consciousness. I said to these beings, I said, well, you know, really great to meet you, and you know, can you just show me where I access my records? And they just pressed me to go back inside and to look along the walls. So I was like, okay. So I came away from this being, went back to the entrance, and I started to walk along. And so I just began, my consciousness was then pressed to look left. So I looked left and I looked at the base of this wall, and all of a sudden, the memory which was stored in that area of the wall then unpacked in my consciousness. And I was like, oh my God. And it was like a video that was playing in my mind. And it represented a moment in my life that was in my life here now on Earth, sort of Aeron Lazar's existence on Earth here. It's something that I've experienced before. It came up like a video. And so it's not like, you know, it was like some, like, you know, vending machine where you just push the button and it delivers you a box. I unpack the box and, oh, there's my memory. No, I just focused my point of attention on the wall, and up this video memory came. And I was like, oh my goodness me. So I went back along and I looked to the right-hand side, did the same thing with my consciousness, and both, this video came up. And I'm like, oh my God, these are the records. And I quickly figured out that the blocks within the Akashic Records are shaped symmetrically. So when I say blocks, it's not like a Tetris thing, or it's not like Jenga. I don't mean like a little block, but when I refer to blocks, in your mind's eye, just now imagine that you've got a bird's eye view over Manhattan in New York, Los Angeles, for, I don't know, Sydney, Australia, any of the Australian Sydneys, they're all arranged into symmetrical blocks. That's exactly how the Akashic Records are arranged. Everything is in symmetrical blocks, and each section of a block represents a different part of your life. So all the memories, not just jumbled up and recorded in there, they're recorded and organized into sections, okay, of the records. So that's how these are. Recorded. It's just incredible. And you know what you can do by understanding the Akashic Records and understanding where you need to look. It's that you can look in different parts of the block, and you can basically identify areas of karma based on the records that you need to clear that's causing you issues on Earth in this lifetime. And how do you travel around the Akashic Records? So in the last presentation, I gave a nice analogy. I like an analogy because people can understand quite easily. It's almost the equivalent of, just think of it like a mechanical vending machine, right? So you've all seen them in, you know, mechanical vending machine. You put your dimes or your quarters in, you know, whatever you want, a can of Coke or a bottle of water, whatever, you tap in the code and that mechanical arm goes, picks up the can of Coke, and drops it, and you've got the can of Coke. So how this is, you know, similar to the Akashic Records, by you setting your intention of where you want to go, is like you tapping the code in to send that arm on the vending machine to where it needs to be to pick up the water or whatever you want, right? So let's say I wanted to dive into karma around my past lifetime, around relationships, for instance. I would just set that intention in my consciousness. And like, as soon as I've set that intention, it's like a mechanical arm, then I just go down the corridor where I need to be. My consciousness takes me where I need to be, because my consciousness is aware of where everything is laid out within my records, my Akashic Records. That's what I'm accessing this. You know, you begin by accessing your own Akashic Records, okay? So from a spiritual integrity perspective, and this is the message I give to everybody, We all need to maintain spiritual integrity, and you can only access your own Akashic records unless you've got the absolute consent and permission of the person that you may be working with, because you can access other people's as well. But you must never impose yourself spiritually on anybody, okay? So we're all sovereign beings, okay? And we all need to be spiritually and energetically respected as such. So I personally would never access somebody else's Akashic records without their explicit permission and without their consent, okay? So for now, we're just going to be talking about accessing your own. And you have, because they're your records, you can access them, there's no problem. Because they're yours, your consciousness knows where this stuff is in the records, if that makes sense. So, you know, you can travel around with the power of your intention. You know, it's amazing. And then above this, okay, so above this complex, as I said, you've got this karmic energy field. And the karmic energy field is linked to the ledger, it's linked to the records. Because the karma accumulates because of our experiences, and our experiences are stored down in these records. I hope this is making sense. Just go with me, okay? So again, the energy, the karma that we accumulate, not just in this lifetime, but in past lifetimes, and you know, through our ancestors, perhaps we've married into, you know, a different energetic line. There's also karma. This is getting really deep now, so I'm just going to touch on it. I'm not going to get bogged down in it, but just know that I'm just explaining the basics to you at this point. There's another layer to this as well, from a karmic perspective, where you've got the karma of a country, you've got the consciousness of a country, you've got the karma of a city, a town, you've got the karma of the earth. There's just many layers to karma, but just for now, I'm keeping this as simple as I possibly can for you guys and the people who are watching this. And we're just going to be talking about personal karma just for now, right? So the karma is, you pick this up due to experiences that you've gone through either in this life or previous life, and it's all linked to the records. So if you want to release this karma, you want to get it gone, because the karmic field, it's all linked back to us, right? So the karmic field links back to our personal energy field. There's a connection, right? So it goes from the record of what happened up to the karmic energy field where it sits, right? The experience. It then links down to your personal energy field. Your personal energy field is what we broadcast out into the world. This is what holds us back here on Earth, right? Okay, so either you can just, if you're not bothered about clearing it, that's cool. We live in a world of free will, don't we? So if you don't want to clear it, that's up to you. But you're going to keep coming back and back and back and back until you do clear that karma by learning the lesson. So either you can just let time take its course. It might take you 80 lifetimes to clear this stuff, or you can do some deep energetic inner work and just clear it in this lifetime. And what it does do, by clearing your karma, it shortens your distance. It shortens our soul's distance that it has to, the lifetimes it has to travel before it returns to source, which is ascension. This is where we're all heading to, okay? So that's the second layer of the records. The third layer, and again, I'm going to try and break this down and keep it as simple as I can for you. The third layer is the consciousness of the Akashic records. And I bet you didn't know there was a consciousness, okay? The consciousness of the Akashic record exists because the Akashic records is a living thing, okay? Each one of us has our own Akashic record. I've got mine, my wife has got hers. Every single body watching this will have your own Akashic records. Each human on Earth has their own Akashic records. Every soul that exists, not just on Earth, not just within our dimension, in different planets and different galaxies, but in each of the dimensional bands, there's a soul, okay? So the Akashic records is the collective sum of all the souls that exist. It's the records of all the souls that exist. And as such, it's a living thing which has got a consciousness. Now, we are connected. This consciousness level is as close to source as you can get. You can't get any closer than this consciousness band, which sits above the Akashic records. The consciousness band, you could refer to as God consciousness, okay? Because it doesn't sit any closer to source than it does. It is the sum of all souls, and by definition means that we are connected to everything that is. I'll repeat that, okay? So from a consciousness perspective, there's a part of us that is connected to everything that is. So when we are fed, okay, you're all aware we're living in what is termed as the Matrix. It's the systems of power and control. We're told on Earth, we're given these labels as soon as we are conscious. It's like, I'm a man, you're a woman, you're a boy, you're a girl, I'm Welsh, I'm American, I'm European. You know, it goes on and on and on. And then, you know, you've got these other labels. I support this team, I support this team. And all these labels do are separate us from what we truly are. What we truly are as humanity is love and light, and we are one. We are connected, right? So if you remove all of these labels, forget your political systems, because that's just a farce in itself. But forget the political systems. Oh, I'm left, I'm right, I'm Democrat, I'm Republican, whatever. Right? It's illusion. When you remove these labels and you just view yourself and you view others, we are just human beings sharing an experience here on planet Earth at the same time. You'll understand that the labels that are brought in are there to divide us and move us away from center, which is love, which is light. And ultimately, we are all connected to God consciousness, not just humanity, but we're connected to everything that exists. If you look at the souls that exist, we're connected to everybody. And it's why when we raise our consciousness and, you know, we can communicate, you've all got the ability to do this, communicate with various races of light beings. Why is it that when you communicate telepathically, it comes back in your own language? Why is that? Because let's say I'm Spanish and I'm communicating with the Arcturians or the Pleiadians, comes back to me in Spanish. The Arcturians and Pleiadians don't speak Spanish. They speak Arcturian and Pleiadian, you know. So why is it that it comes back in my own language? And why is it my consciousness understands it? It understands it because we're connected via this God consciousness at the Akashic. We're all connected. We're all one of the same thing. So, you know, I just wanted to press on that point, just to offer you encouragement, you know, it's just to love one another and stop seeing ourselves as separate from each other, because we're not. We're one. We're love. We're light. It's who we truly are. And when we realize this, it's like there's a light bulb moment where it's like all of this stuff which is imposed on us here on Earth, you know, there's this kind of constant agenda in the media to divide and kind of spread fear and all this stuff. It all just falls away into insignificance because we realize who we truly are. And there's nothing above that, you know. It's like we are of the highest. It's like what we are by our very nature. So that's the layers of the Akashic Records. It's an amazing, amazing place, right? So I've already explained to you how I access the Akashic Records. You know, just to recap, I went there via the Pleiadians for the first time, went into the complex, explored the complex. I navigate or circumnavigate the complex with the power of my intention, and I can move around where it is. My consciousness knows where all my records are kept because they're my records. They're illuminated in golden light. The walls go up like this. There's keepers, and you've got the different layers, etc., of the Akashic Records, right? Now, when it comes to, I'll just give you a quick insight on how this works with another person. So I quickly mentioned that from a spiritual integrity perspective, you should only ever access somebody else's Akashic Records with consent and with permission. And that is the message. I give everybody I teach, okay, I give this message to everybody. This is an expression of how I think everybody should be. You know, just as you've got yin, yang, you've got balance in the force, to term sort of a Star Wars analogy, there is kind of dark side to the force. So there are people out there who would try and energetically impose themselves on people. And that's kind of like the dark arts of this. But what we are coming from, we're coming from a centered place of light. and of high vibration. So my message to anybody watching this and who I teach to do this stuff, you only ever access somebody's Akashic records with consent. I can't say that clear enough, okay? So when it comes to when I work with clients and how this works, so they will come to me. Typically, they've tried everything else first. Nothing works. They're stuck, they're blocked or whatever. And they come to me and we just clear out the karma from the Akashic records, and that unblocks their life, whether it be emotionally, physically, whatever. Like, it's a profound experience and it happens like right away after the sessions. And I say to them, usually when we sort of chat on Skype or whatever, or Zoom for the first time, I'd say to them, you know, like everybody says to me after the sessions, I wish I'd just come to you first, because it would have just saved me all this wasting time and going down this path. But people don't understand how much energy holds them back, you see. So, you know, you only know what you know. And that's one of the reasons why I explain to people during these sessions and I show people how to do this stuff, is because you can unblock your own life. You can unblock your own karma and stuff. So how it works behind the scenes, I'll have a session. Usually each session's limited to about an hour. When I'm doing one-on-ones, that's one of the services I offer, right? I do one-on-one Akashic clearance sessions, and they're limited to about an hour, right? So we're on limited time. Now, the Akashic Records is like the biggest library your Akashic Records, biggest library or ledger of everything in your life, okay? You could say to me, Aeron, I'm feeling a bit stuck. Go in the Akashic Records. You've got my consent to go in there, have a rummage around and see what you find. Now, I can do that, no problem, but it might take me some time, because you can imagine I've got to search through each section, go through each section. It takes time. And because I'm respectful of the time period we've got in these sessions, these one-to-one sessions, I say to people, right, okay, in order to get the most out of this session, point me in the right direction. Don't have to give me details, but just say, right, this is to do with relationships, or it's to do with family member, or it's something that happened to me when I was a kid, or whatever, or I'm feeling stuck around X, Y, and Z. And I know where to go then in the Akashic Records. And because I go straight to the relevant section, I'm able to identify these blocks, etc., quite quickly. And then what I do, once I've pinpointed these blocks, I then go up to the Akashic Karmic field, and I find where that's linked in the Karmic field. And then what I do is release that karma. I can do that energetically with my intention. I'm quite powerful, and I've done this many times. I release the karma into the field, and then what I need to do is to locate where that block was in a person's energetic field. Remember at the start of the session, everyone's got a field which sits around them. So what I then do is pinpoint exactly where the block sits within the field. I can see that in my consciousness, and I remove it. But when I remove this block, okay, it creates a void within your energetic field. Now, it's important, okay, that we reprogram the void. We reprogram the void that we've created by removing this block, so that the field doesn't just fill it up with the same stuff. So it's really important. This is a crucial kind of part. This is what my mentors, I've studied this is what my mentors showed me and taught me to do. Is really important. And I've developed my own system over time on how to do this. I've kind of took it up a notch from what I've learned. But you need to reprogram the field. You need to reprogram that void. So what we do is, with the aid of the subconscious, because there's another layer to it, okay, is your field is connected to your subconscious. And basically, we need to partner with, I would never say use somebody's subconscious, because somebody's subconscious and consciousness is a living thing. So we always partner with somebody's subconscious, and then we reprogram their energetic field. The shifts that people then experience are profound. They'll usually feel a purge of energy coming out of their field, either at that moment in time or a day or two afterwards, okay? It usually feels like they've got jet lag or mild jet lag, and they feel a little bit wiped out. They'll sometimes, if it's karma and it's quite an emotional experience, they'll tend to feel those emotions come up again. And this tends to happen as they release them from the field for the last time around that situation. You have to release those emotions, but releasing those emotions means you have to feel them again, unfortunately. And if it's around painful experiences, you usually feel the emotion that you felt around that time. And I say to my clients, I say, look, when you feel this stuff coming up through your field, don't let this take over and squash it down. because that's the worst thing you can do. If you suppress that pain or you suppress those emotions, what tends to happen is you will stop those being released from your field. So you need to kind of honor the fact that they exist and just allow yourself to feel. If you get a bit teary, you get a bit upset, sometimes it can be anger, sometimes it can be resentment, it can be jealousy, whatever the feelings are that are coming up around what we've released. This is something that you need to kind of allow yourself to release. And basically, when it releases from your field, it's gone and it's done. You're not going to be energetically kind of affected by that anymore. So that's kind of how it works with the Akashic one-to-ones that I offer. And it's kind of profound, basically. But basically, what I've got coming up, okay, so if you've got any questions around the Akashic Records, I gave you the link. The link to my Telegram channel is bit.ly/Aeron Telegram, AERON Telegram, okay? And if you find me on Telegram, ask your questions in there. I'll answer them all, okay, after this live session. I've got a good group on